My brother deceived my fiancée on our wedding day, making her believe that I had been unfaithful, but now he has chosen a hospital stay over paying for a lawsuit. Have you ever had your entire life destroyed right in front of you without even having the chance to defend yourself? That was my wedding day. One second, I thought I would marry this woman and spend my entire life with her. The next, everything vanished as if by magic. And the worst part, it wasn't bad luck. It wasn't a mistake. It was planned. Organized by someone who should never have betrayed me, my own brother. This didn't start with my wedding. It started years ago, long before I met Kathy. It started with my brother Marcus and his ex, Rebecca. Marcus had been with Rebecca for years. He was obsessed with her, always acting as if she belonged to him. But no matter what he did, she never seemed that interested in him. Then one night at a family gathering, everything exploded. Rebecca admitted in front of everyone that she had feelings for me. I had never given her any reason to, and I don't even know why she did what she did in that moment. I never did anything to make her think I wanted her, but Marcus didn't care about any of that. In his mind, I had stolen her from him. He lost his mind at that moment, accusing me of sneaking around, calling me a traitor. No matter what I said, he didn't want to hear it. Rebecca left him that night, and from then on, Marcus made it his mission to ruin me. At first, it was just words. He talked behind my back, making up stories to ruin my reputation. But when that wasn't enough, he got more creative. He started with my friendships, small things, subtle criticisms, planting doubts. One friend suddenly grew cold toward me, and I had no idea why until I found out that Marcus had been feeding him lies. Once, he told my best friend that I had been bad-mouthing him behind his back for years. Another time, he told someone that I was only his friend to get closer to a girl he liked. It didn't matter if the lies made sense or not. He knew that if he repeated them enough, people would start to believe them. Then, he started interfering with my job. I had a position at a small company after college, and everything was going well until I started hearing strange rumors about myself. A coworker, someone I barely talked to, suddenly thought I was trying to get him fired. My boss started treating me differently, and I didn't understand why until someone told me that Marcus had been saying I was planning to quit and had been speaking badly about the company in interviews. My parents ignored everything or just didn't want to be caught in the middle of a fight between brothers, even though the fight only existed in Marcus's mind. They always saw Marcus as the one who needed more understanding. When I told them what he was doing, they acted as if I was exaggerating. They didn't believe me when I said he was turning people against me, even when he once stole money from me, taking a few hundred from my wallet when I was staying at my parents' house. My mother just said he had probably borrowed it and forgot to tell me. So when my wedding day came, I should have known. I should have expected something. The night before the wedding, I just wanted some time for myself. Everyone was running around, planning, stressing, making sure everything was perfect, and I just needed a break. So instead of having a big bachelor party, I stayed alone in the hotel I had booked near the ceremony venue. I turned off my phone, relaxed, and tried to enjoy the moment. I had no idea that while I was doing that, Marcus was already setting his trap. Hours before I arrived at the venue, he was already there, and he had brought a woman I had never seen before. She had proof. Messages, call logs, a video that supposedly showed me with her a few nights before my wedding. By the time I found out about all this, it was too late. Kathy was gone. Her family wouldn't even look at me. My parents just stood there in silence. And Marcus? He wasn't just watching, he was leading this entire fabricated witch hunt. He was the one showing the messages. He was the one confirming the supposed details of the affair. And the moment I tried to ask what was going on, he was the one who stepped forward, acting as if he were disappointed, shaking his head as if he had no choice but to expose me. Nobody gave me the chance to explain. Nobody showed me the supposed evidence. Kathy blocked me, and the last thing she told me was that she never wanted to have anything to do with me again. I did everything I could. I called, I sent messages, I begged her family to let me talk to her. Nothing worked. Eventually, the threats started. If I didn't leave her alone, they would call the police. That's when I knew it was over. I packed my things and left the city. There was nothing left for me there. I tried to move on, to leave it all behind. Years passed, and I convinced myself that it was just something I had to live with. Then out of nowhere, my mom sent me a message. After all this time, after years of not speaking to me, she suddenly wanted to talk. In her message, she apologized and said that everything had been Marcus's fault. So, that's the summary of my story with my family, whom I haven't spoken to in years. Now, my mother seems to have realized the truth, but I don't know if I want to talk to them at this point. My parents are just as guilty as Marcus because they protected him all this time and never let me explain or say anything. The only reason I would talk to my mother would be just to tell her that they never gave me the chance to tell my side of the story. They believed Marcus, and now they are probably caught up in some mess because of their golden boy. What would you do? Would you move on with your life, or would you be petty and talk to them just to tell them a few truths to their faces? Yes, I have been reading all the comments, but even though years have passed, I never had closure. And I am not talking about closure where we talk, apologize, and leave the past behind. I mean closure where I can vent to my parents or whoever is necessary. That is the only reason I answered one of my mother's calls, and this update is about that. There are many things I have found out now, but I will tell them first and then give my opinion. She was not just calling to apologize, something that took her several years. She was calling because everything had finally collapsed. After I left, Marcus wasted no time. He and Kathy officially started dating just a few months after my ruined wedding. Marcus did not just want to destroy my life, he also wanted to take my fiancée as some sort of revenge for what he thought I had done to him. Not only did it seem strange to me, but other people also found it suspicious how quickly it all happened, including my parents. But Marcus never cared what others thought, so it was not an obstacle. Even so, my parents accepted it. Kathy's family welcomed him as if he were some kind of hero, the man who had saved her from a lying cheater like me. At first, everything seemed fine. Kathy got exactly what she wanted: a secure life, a stable marriage, a man who had not cheated on her. But the cracks started to form almost immediately. Marcus was never really the devoted husband he pretended to be. He was not affectionate, he was not attentive. As soon as he had Kathy, he stopped trying. And when the thrill of taking something from me faded, so did his interest in her. Then, she found out that he had been cheating on her. And not just with anyone, with the same woman he had used to frame me, a friend of Marcus or something more. The great savior ended up being unfaithful. I cannot be the only one who sees the irony. The same woman, who, you may remember, came to my wedding to present proof that I had cheated on Kathy, now makes me wonder if those messages and evidence were actually edited using Marcus's own chats and photos. Actually, I do not even wonder, I am almost sure of it. But if you trust someone who lies that easily, you will probably end up being deceived. That is exactly what happened to Kathy. At first, Kathy did not want to believe it. She had built her entire world on the idea that Marcus had saved her from a liar, that she had made the right choice, that she had dodged a bullet with me. She ignored the signs. She never saw any red flags in me because there were none. But with Marcus, she lived blinded. Yes, every second this becomes more ironic. But when this woman confessed everything, there was no way to look the other way and think that Saint Marcus would never do such a thing. I do not know why she did it. Maybe out of guilt, maybe out of revenge because she wanted him for herself, maybe because Marcus had also betrayed her. But she told Kathy everything, from the affair, down to the most explicit details, between her and Marcus, to the lie he told at my wedding to ruin my life. She even said that she had nothing against me, but at that moment, she would have done anything for Marcus. According to my mother, and by extension Kathy's family, they were devastated. They bet everything on a horse that not only lost but turned out to be the worst one of all. The worst part is that Kathy had a conversation with Marcus, not just about the cheating, though that too, but about how he ruined her life with his lies, all seemingly just to ruin mine. And he did not deny it. He barely even tried to fight for her. The moment she told him she could not stay married to him, he just left. Without fighting, without regret, he simply walked away. It reminds me of the story of the boy who cried wolf, except in this case, the liar was the wolf, and everyone believed him. And when they finally realized it was all a lie, it was too late. Kathy had destroyed a good relationship with me, or at least I think we had one, and she had a child with the wolf himself. That is why my mother was calling me now. They want to talk to fix what is broken. And most importantly, they want me to listen to Kathy. Well, in my opinion, they are expecting way too much. They expect that after Kathy was used by my brother, I will just accept her. I have no interest in keeping the things my brother has already used and thrown away. It is not as if Kathy did not know what my brother was like. That is why she believed him. She knew him very well, and I think she only used the excuse to be with him. Call me distrustful, but for someone to start dating the brother of their fiancé shortly after the wedding is highly suspicious. And call me a bad person for saying that Kathy is a used thing, but that is exactly what she was. She was used by Marcus, and I have no interest in taking her now. Why would I do that? So that in a few years she can run off with another man? I have seen many questions in the comments of this post and the previous one, and I realized that I left out some details because I did not want it to be too long. It is harder to fix later if it gets too extensive. I wanted to clarify a few things, especially about my brother and Rebecca, since that seems to be one of the most debated points. Let's see if what I have to say clears this up. My brother Marcus was completely in love with Rebecca. Not just in love, obsessed. They had been together for years, and he planned to marry her. Our family knew, and for a long time, it seemed like everything was set. He had already proposed to her, and as far as I remember, he was convinced they would be together forever. That is why what happened took us all by surprise. Rebecca mentioned it completely out of nowhere at that family gathering. Without warning, without signs, she simply announced it in front of everyone, saying that she had feelings for me. And to be clear, I never did anything to encourage it, nor did I see any signs of it. I barely had a relationship with Rebecca, just the kind of relationship one has with their brother's girlfriend, who you see from time to time. After that, she tried to contact me, but I rejected her immediately. I was not interested in her, I did not care, and I did not want to make things worse. I knew how badly Marcus had taken it, and the last thing I wanted was to fuel the fire. I have thought about it, and Marcus's level of obsession with her was not normal, but Rebecca was also not normal if she chose to be with Marcus and then did what she did, which I think makes some sense. When all this happened, it was not as if I did not care and just let things take their course. I tried to smooth things over with him, I tried to explain that I had nothing to do with what she did. But Rebecca made it impossible. Instead of letting things settle down, she kept pushing, sending him messages about how I was a real man and how she wanted me instead of him. It was twisted, and it only fueled Marcus's hatred, especially because some of those messages were sent directly to Marcus. No matter what I said, he refused to believe that I had nothing to do with it. He saw it as the ultimate betrayal, convinced that I had secretly been after her all along. That led to our relationship being ruined and to Marcus doing everything he did over the years. At first, I felt sorry for him, but when he started ruining my life, that pity disappeared. That is why he was not even invited to my wedding. A lot of people have asked if I plan to meet with Kathy, and honestly, I am still thinking about it. There is no scenario where I forgive her, much less consider what she expects. But just like with my mother, I think saying many of the things I have written here could be therapeutic. I never got to defend myself. I never got to tell her what I thought, good or bad. And at the very least, I deserve that. I am surprised that so many people agreed that speaking with Kathy to tell her everything I wrote here was the best option. I expected people to tell me something else, to not be vengeful or something like that. We met in a place in my city. I was not going to travel to meet her. I did not think she deserved that. When I arrived, she was already sitting in a chair. And she was not alone. She had the daughter she had with Marcus sitting next to her. I do not know how old she is, but I estimate 5 or 6 years old. Kathy was nervous and did not know how to start. Meanwhile, her daughter looked at me with wide eyes. I felt sad for her because she could have been my daughter, but everything turned out so differently from how I had planned my life. Kathy had changed over the years. She no longer looked as good as I remembered, probably from the stress of living with someone like Marcus. I know that a person like him can make your life miserable, and that is probably what he did to Kathy. Still, I did not feel sorry for her. She was so nervous that at first she seemed to stutter. She was not even forming sentences I could understand, but I already knew what this was about. I had always been the one to fix her problems. They were not big problems, just minor things, but I always fixed them. The real reason she was sitting in front of me now was that everything in her life had collapsed. She wanted me to fix it just like I had before. But it was not that simple, and I was not going to let her think that it was. I had questions, too many questions, and I was not going to let her get away easily. First, I wanted to know what was really in that video, the one that caused so much destruction, the one that ruined my life. She had told me that Marcus had brought a woman to the wedding to frame me, but I needed to understand exactly what had happened. She hesitated at first, then explained that the woman, the one who showed up with Marcus that day, was an old friend of his. Well, that I already knew. What I did not know was that in the video, this woman was in bed, but at no point was I seen or heard. I could not believe what I was hearing. Everything I had gone through was for nothing, because now she was telling me that she had been that easy to convince. She never questioned Marcus's story. When the truth finally came out, that Marcus had been cheating on her with the same woman he used to frame me, she also realized that the man in the video was probably Marcus, the one holding the camera. But even after everything fell apart, Kathy never contacted me. And now, after all this time, she was sitting in front of me asking for my help. If she could believe Marcus's version of events so easily, then she could just as easily believe that I would forgive her and help her. Maybe even take responsibility for her daughter. That would be convenient for her. My intention was to tell her everything I needed to say, but I still needed more answers. And then there was the child, which made it even worse because the only reason she brought her was to make me feel sorry for her or to keep me from saying everything I had planned. I asked her why she believed Marcus so easily, why she trusted him so much. She answered that she had had doubts for a while about the marriage, that she had pre-wedding jitters, and that the evidence helped her convince herself that she should not marry me. But now she realized her mistake and said that it should have always been me, the one she should have ended up with. So she asked me to at least give it a try, to see if we could work things out. She had not even asked if I was with someone. Neither she nor my family had cared to find out. I was not with anyone, but she seemed to assume that even if I was, I would still give us a chance because, well, I do not know. I told her no. I told her that I was not going to pick up the trash Marcus had left behind. I did not use those exact words because her daughter was there, and I also made it very clear that I was referring to her, not her child. I can be vengeful, but only with the people who deserve it. I told her to never contact me again. After I left, I sent her one last message before blocking her, where I told her everything I thought without holding back. I think writing is a better way to express yourself because you can take the time to think it through. You can be even more hurtful if you want to be. Again, I am not writing this to make myself look good. I think I have done the complete opposite. But life is not perfect, and you do not always make the best decisions. I also do not think I will end up in hell just for giving back a small fraction of what they did to me. And for using her daughter at that meeting, I think she deserved even worse. This is insane. I have to update this, but I will keep it short. I am absolutely horrified by all of this. Right after Marcus and Kathy's divorce, Kathy was granted full custody of the child. This is not what horrifies me. It was the most normal outcome considering that Marcus could not have cared less about his daughter. What horrifies me is what Kathy did next. Kathy left the child at my house without any warning. She did not even try to talk things over or make sure the child would be properly taken care of. She just abandoned her at my doorstep in the middle of the night. I found her the next morning when I was leaving for work, sitting by the door. She told me that her mother had dropped her off and then drove away. I immediately called my parents to explain the situation. They came to pick her up right away. But I also called Child Protective Services because I believe Kathy deserves at least some kind of punishment for doing this to her daughter. At the very least, my parents decided to take full custody of the child since neither of her biological parents wanted to take care of her. That happened a few weeks ago, and I do not have many updates. I do not talk to my parents about this matter or any other. I only unblocked my mother to let her know what Kathy had left at my house, but after that, and after making sure the authorities were involved, I blocked them again. It seems like they keep trying to drag me back into their lives, but I am doing just fine staying far away from them. I do not know how much more information I will be able to bring in a future update because my contact with them is limited. But if I find out anything worth sharing, I will post another update. If I do not come back, you know why. Do not ask me in private messages. It has taken me some time, but at least I have an update to my story. And it has to do with my ex's arrest for abandoning her daughter at my doorstep. There is a lot to cover in this update. Kathy told the police that she only left her daughter at my house because I was the biological father. There is absolutely no chance of that because I left everything behind long before the child was even conceived, long before my ex could have gotten pregnant. But since I could have been lying, I had to take a test just to prove it. The results confirmed the obvious, and at least I was able to clear that problem. But Kathy was not so lucky, because even if I had been the biological father, she still abandoned her daughter at my doorstep. Worse, without telling me and leaving the girl outside alone for half the night. So, she has been sentenced to a year in prison for that brilliant decision. I do not know what she expected, that I would take responsibility anyway? My parents are still the child's temporary guardians, but they plan to become her permanent guardians by suing both Kathy and Marcus for child support. I do not know if adoption is an option, but they still want both parents to pay for the child's care. I spoke with my father after years of no contact, only to bring you all this update that you have been asking for. So I hope you appreciate the effort, and know they are not happy about becoming parents again at their age. But I see it as a chance for them to get it right this time. We do not know where Marcus is, but the case against him can still proceed. As for Kathy, we know exactly where she is, and once she is released, her daughter's child support payments will be waiting for her. Do you think Kathy was always like this, or did Marcus break her down until she ended up in this position? They found Marcus after my parents sued him for child support. But the circumstances in which he was found are what make this interesting. Although, now that I reread what I just wrote, It might sound like they found him dead, but that is not the case. Marcus was caught by the police while trying to escape to avoid paying overdue child support. And when they did, he resisted arrest and even attacked one of the officers with a rock he picked up from the ground. Another officer had to subdue him and shot him in the abdomen. Not a life-threatening wound, but enough to land him in the hospital for weeks before he was transferred to prison. Now he will have to pay child support, just like Kathy is doing. At least the judge ordered the sale of his car, the only property he owns, to cover the overdue payments. You cannot say I am vengeful because none of this is my fault, but you can say that I am happy it happened this way. I have no contact with my parents again, and I got all this information from someone else. It is someone I have not mentioned in the story, so I do not think it is relevant to bring them up now. I am only saying this to answer those who accused me of forgiving my parents.